Well, Tim, the
Oh,
thank you. Thank
great.
you so much, man. I want to just first say I saw the film at Montclair Film Festival in Montclair, New Jersey, and genuinely, absolutely loved it. I had a chance to see your Q&A at the end, and it was so great that you made the trip. And genuinely, like, it's one of my favorite movies of the entire year. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I wanted to start by just asking you, as a storyteller, you've worked on so many different things, right? Like you've done a lot of for notable American audiences, you've done a lot of TV stuff. You talked about how you did Peaky Blinders, obviously previously with Cillian, but one of the other shows you did that I absolutely adore, and I hope one day in the future we have a chance to talk about it, is The Terror. I think it's like one of the most underrated series ever. I love that show. But I wanted to ask you in particular with small things like these, what was so appealing about this project that made you want to come aboard in the first place?
Yeah, I think it was like both things like working with Killian and exploring grief, which is on my own movie is always a thing that comes back. And I've kind of all these little thoughts I got throughout my own grief experience to dive back into it in a kind of therapeutic way and then communicate that with Killian, him being like the best actor on the planet as far as I'm concerned. And like diving back in that kind of pain and yeah, he was a communicator of my deepest feelings sometimes in all the silences. And that was like, wow, that was like very emotional for me and very personal for me to make that movie or to make that journey together with him.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. He's definitely one of, if not one of our finest working actors currently today. And I think that your chemistry definitely is showcased even more in this film maybe than what you guys were able to do across like 6 episodes in Peaky. I mean, there's just so much here and even a shorter runtime too. And one of the things it was discussed at Montclair, but I wanted to ask you again for our audience here at Culture Wave. One of the things that I really love about this movie is the use of sound. And with Killian's character of Bill, he's obviously the central focus of the film, and you hear his breathing, which is really prominent throughout in a lot of scenes in the movie, and it kind of gives you that effect of like being a fly on the wall, like throughout the whole entire. You're just there for the journey with Bill and his family and everything else, as well as just hearing like the cobblestone streets in Ireland. Like, was that an obvious choice that you wanted from the early development of this film, or was that something that sort of matriculated throughout the process for you? Like, either it was something you thought about when you were in production, or maybe even in post.
A bit of both. I think what music does is like being in the unconsciousness of the character, but also in the unconsciousness of the audience. Subliminally, you can go into the audience's mind and communicate what might go on with the character's mind. I think I feel that what's going on inside might appear very silent in the movie, but I think what's going on inside is like very loud, like internally. So we try to find ways to approach it, but still feel natural and still feel grounded in the movie and not feeling as if it's it's underneath the surface, not on top of it, if you know what I mean. It glues into the movie. So that was like using source material. But I think on a lot of longer camera shots, I asked the composer Cillian to give me some kind of drones or some certain kind of tones. So the camera moved in the right rhythm of the music, or we are got the same spirit of the music. So I used it on set, and also for Killian to kind of get in kind of mood. I think when he walks into the convent, I think we used speakers there, and then the operators get headphones. I get the headphones. Everybody get it. Like we become one team, and we feel the kind of rhythm and the pacing of the scene a little bit better.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you talked about the tension because so much of that is built throughout the film. But like you're saying, it's not something that sort of beats you over the head. It's just boiling the whole entire film with Bill as a character.
Yeah, exactly what you say is totally right, and it's quite hard to pull off because it's trial and error. Because a lot of times in the process, it's not working, and then you have to go back and try it again. So it's really a matter of trial and error. It's not that we all figured it out up front, but we there was this idea of what I always try to do is get inside the character and what is what is going on inside his head that he doesn't know himself? Like that's the question. And what does it sound like? And then sometimes that creates a creative process that can often be very creative.
Yeah, you see it in some of the moments too, how you kind of just let the character sit with his thoughts. And we're seeing it as an audience that he's pondering what to do, which I think is so great. And one of the big components of this film, despite a lack of screen time necessarily, is Emily Watson's character as the Mother Superior. And she's in this film for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, right? On in terms of screen time. What was it like working with her, but even more so, the importance of her character and that scene with Cillian's character, Bill? What did that mean for the overall story and for you to work with her for the first time?
Yeah, actually, how I figured it out and how I saw it is like just his process of grief. That was for me the engine of the story. I think what happened with the Catholic Church is not for me the engine, it's more the design of the car. It's very important, don't get me wrong, but it's more the design of the car. But the real engine is his own pain and his own grief. So I will always pictured the convent as a place he's afraid of going to. Something might have happened to his mother there. And
Mhm.
he haven't dealt with this kind of grief yet. He hasn't faced it. This kind of delayed grief. It's because men weren't allowed to talk about their emotions. In back in the day in Ireland was very so we built like a concrete wall, and it's like there's a fires inside all the time. So he never faced it, and he tries to enter the convent for the first time. But for me, the convent was for me kind of a metaphor of him coming closer to his trauma. And I always pictured Emily Watson being the center of his like, deepest fear. So that gave me
Mhm.
some kind of creative license to go slightly bigger than life. And I think the difficulty was to find the right kind of balance that it still feels part of the movie and still slightly I think over the top is too much of a word, but slightly bigger than life or slightly something from the underworld.
Well,
And
you're saying more something like a symbolic nature of like maybe that monster in the closet that of you're talking about that overall grief that Bill's dealing with.
yeah. Right now, yeah. If I hear it in American terms, I think of a show like Legion I've done before, but that's not as literal. But if that's the way we try to approach it, and I think Emily, it was more a question of timing and the kind of the rhythm and take it back or push it a little bit, and then she found the groove. Emily just found the groove there. With her, probably something with her own experience, whatever, but she nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. She was remarkable in the movie. I know you're limited on time, so I just wanted to end with this last question for you. Um, I wanted to talk to you again about the subject matter of what this film is as a whole, with the systemic abuse of power in the church, and obviously for the people who already checked it out and are watching their interview by the time it's posted, or I highly recommend everybody go see this film now that it's going to be wide this weekend. But this is a period piece that tells of a time in 1985 in Ireland, but in terms of the messaging that you want to get across for this film to speak in current times, what do you hope that people get out of this movie?
I think what's very important is that silence means, if you are silent, means that you are complicit. I think that's the kind of message. If you're silent, you're complicit. If something wrong happens around you and you're silent, you are complicit. And that comes back to World War II movie I've done just before. And I think that's quite, and I think what always happens throughout history and what this film also is about, if there's an absolute power and you're not allowed to question anything, abuse will eventually happen in massive numbers. And I think the church in Ireland was a big example for that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, Tim, thank you so much for your time, man. As I said, I absolutely adored this movie. I highly recommend everybody watching this interview to go check it out. I've already recommended it to my friends, my family. So very excited for other people to see this movie, and congratulations on an amazing movie.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you, Tim.
This is The Culture.